Hey there! So, what if I told you that one of the most common ways kids are taught to read might actually be hurting their progress? It sounds pretty wild, I know, but today we're going to dig into the science that shows us how to stop the guessing game and start building a truly confident reader. And the secret weapon? It's just conversation. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Seriously, think about the last time you were reading with a child. When they hit a tricky word, what was the first instinct? Was it to sound it out letter by letter, or was it to look at the pictures for a clue? Because the answer to that question is everything. One of those paths builds a real reader, and the other one, well, it just doesn't.
And that right there, that's the problem. See, teaching kids to guess isn't some small mistake. It's a huge, widespread issue that cognitive scientists have been shouting about for decades. Okay, let's get into why this is so critical.
So, to really get why this is such a huge deal, we have to zoom out and look at what's really a hidden crisis in early literacy. And you know what? It starts way earlier than most of us think. Look at this number, 18 months. By just 18 months old, researchers can already see measurable, significant gaps in language development between kids. This isn't about reading yet, this is about the words they know, their vocabulary. And that early language gap is the seed of the problem. Because later on, if you teach a child with a smaller vocabulary to just guess at words, they have a much smaller mental dictionary to pull from. It sets them up for a struggle. See? It's all connected. So why is this guessing strategy so incredibly flawed? Well, in this next part, we're going to bust probably the biggest myth in reading education. We're going to look at what the science actually says about how our brains learn to read. And this is the absolute core truth of it all. This quote just nails it. We have this idea that good readers are just really clever guessers. But the research shows the complete opposite. Real skilled reading isn't about guessing at all. It's about automatic, lightning-fast word recognition. And this is where it gets so fascinating, because this idea completely flips what many of us were taught. A cognitive scientist named Keith Stanovich made a groundbreaking discovery. It's actually the poor readers who rely on pictures and context to guess. The skilled readers, they're using their decoding skills, sounding out words so well that it becomes automatic. For them, reading feels effortless. For the guessers, it's always going to be slow, hard work. So these strategies right here, these are the culprits. They're all part of a very popular but very flawed method that's sometimes called the 3 cueing system. It basically teaches kids to be little detectives. Look at the picture, think about the story, what word would make sense here. But reading isn't a detective game. It's about cracking a code. And this method basically tells kids to ignore the most important clues, the letters on the page. Okay, so we've seen the problem pretty clearly. But here's the really good news. The solution is actually incredibly simple and backed by tons of solid research. Let's take a look at the real formula for what makes a great reader. And here it is. It's called the simple view of reading, and it's brilliant. It shows that true reading comprehension is the product of 2 things multiplied together. Decoding skills, which is being able to sound out the words, and language comprehension, which is knowing what the words mean. You have to have both. If one of those is weak, or worse, a 0, well, you know what happens in multiplication, right? The whole thing comes crashing down. So how do we build up both sides of that equation? How do we make sure both skills are strong? I want you to think about it like building a house. You can't just put up a roof. You need a solid foundation and strong pillars holding everything up. And here are those pillars. Now, don't feel like you have to memorize all 6. Just notice the flow here, the progression. Look at where it all starts. Number 1, oral language. Just talking. That's the bedrock. And you can see how each step builds on the last, all the way up to the ultimate goal, which is comprehension. But if that foundation of spoken language isn't strong, the whole structure gets real shaky. Which brings us to the most powerful tool that you have in your toolkit. And the best part? It's not a fancy app or an expensive program. Your greatest strength is right here, in your ability to just talk with your child. So this is your practical, hands-on playbook. So here's the game plan. You want to focus your everyday conversations around these 3 simple ideas. First, you model rich, interesting language yourself. Second, you ask open-ended questions, the kind that can't just be answered with a yes or no. And third, when they talk, you give them meaningful feedback. You build on what they say, add more detail, and expand their thoughts. And here are a couple of perfect, simple examples of what this looks like. It's a simple swap, right? Instead of just put your shoes on, you add these delicious descriptive words, sturdy sneakers, venture outside. You're not just giving a command, you're painting a picture with your words and effortlessly dropping new vocabulary into their brains. toddlers, their brains are just sponges for sounds and words. So your mission is simple. Just be a narrator. Talk about everything you're doing as you're doing it. I'm chopping the carrots now. Let's wash your hands with bubbly soap. And when they coo and babble, respond like you're having a real conversation. You are literally building the language centers of their brain from the ground up.
Okay, now for the preschoolers. Their world is getting bigger, and their vocabulary should too. So your mission now is to become a descriptor-in-chief. Add adjectives to everything. It's not just a carpet, it's a fluffy carpet. They're not just carrots, they're crunchy carrots. Playing rhyming games tunes their ears to the sounds and words, and asking, "What do you notice?" turns them into little observers. With elementary school kids, we get to go a little deeper, moving from just concrete things to more abstract ideas. Your mission here is to explore a bigger world of concepts. Talk about the taste and texture of their food. When you read chapter books together, don't just read the words. Talk about why the characters are feeling a certain way. This builds their vocabulary, sure, but it also builds that all-important comprehension muscle. And listen, this does not stop when they get older. For teens, language is about identity. It's about understanding the complex world around them. So your mission is to just keep that curiosity going. Hear a new word in a TV show? Pause it and look it up together. Ask them to teach you new slang. This keeps language alive and fun, and it shows them that learning new words is a cool, lifelong thing to do. Okay, I know that was a ton of information, but please don't feel overwhelmed. The beauty of this is that we can boil it all down into a super simple, totally doable action plan that you can literally start using the minute this is over. Here it is, your 3-step action plan. That's it. First, just pick one thing from those age group slides. Just one, and focus on it for a week. Second, make a game of adding descriptive words to just 5 things you do every day. And third, keep reading together, even for just 15 minutes, but start asking those open-ended questions. It's the small, consistent things that make all the difference in the world. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. The power to build an amazing, confident, successful reader is already in your hands. It doesn't cost a thing. It starts with your very next conversation. The only question is, what are you going to talk about today?